Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
First, let me say this. I don't get scared easily. I've been in the Sierras all my life, and I know every inch of the eastern half like the back of my hand. I'm always wandering around miles away from any trails on my own, and I'm always fine. This is the second time I've experienced something bone-chilling enough to turn me off from hiking for weeks afterwards. Be me, 19, living in the eastern Sierra Nevada. Friday the 13th and harvest moon coming up. Think, hey, what if I went for a hike out on a nearby trail and stayed out and watched the moon? Start hiking around 4. I wanted to have time to get to a nice spot before the sun went down around 7:40. Everything was going well at first, just a normal, calming hike up some solid altitude gain. After about an hour, I entered a brightly lit tunnel of aspen trees. It was absolutely beautiful, with the sunlight filtering through the leaves, and it smelled like heaven. This is the part where it gets weird. Directly after this aspen tunnel abruptly ends. You enter a grove of pine trees where it is very dark for 5 p.m. I had trouble making out the path at times, and the trees were almost always about 15 to 20 feet away from each other, so light should be able to shine through very easily. I stop and look around and notice an interesting pair of trees growing 3 to 4 feet apart a couple yards off the trail. Would make for a cool picture. So I pull out my phone and load up my camera, as I raise my foot to get closer to the trees. A voice in my head says, "Do not leave the trail." Once you spend enough time in the woods by yourself, you learn to obey voices in your head because they usually know things you may not be aware of. So I put my phone away and walk as fast as I can out of that grove, since the voice also told me not to run. Like the idiot I am. I continue with my planned hike until I find an open spot with a beautiful view of the sunset a bit off the trail. Interestingly enough, the voice guided me to that spot off the trail. Spend about an hour in the one spot, taking pictures and laying on the ground. None of the horrible shit I was feeling earlier was hitting me. Around 7:10, the voice comes back saying, "I need to get back." So I packed up my things in my backpack and start working my way back to the trail. Keep on repeating to myself for some reason that I need to get out of the forest before the moon comes out. The forest itself only takes up about half of the trail. The first half is climbing up a mountainside covered in low brush. Get back on the trail and start speed walking through it, always aware of the quickly disappearing light of the sun to my left. I notice that everything has gone dead quiet. So I stop and listen to see if anything is still lively. A single caw from a crow is the only thing I hear, which sets me entirely on edge. When I end back up in the dark grove I mentioned earlier, my legs instantly tense up to sprint through the area. But I just knew that even though I had to get out of the forest before the moon came out, I could not run. The entire time walking back, my body is ready to rip apart from stress, and I just had these weird impressions in my head guiding me. The tension instantly went away when I made it out of the forest, but I was still so spooked by it I haven't gone hiking since. Nothing super concrete, but it was one of my worst experiences up here. And I've come face to face with a family of brown bears and been stalked by a mountain lion, Wendigo. Anyway, that's my story, lads.
I had something similar happen a few years ago. Be me, 20, on a vacation with my parents and brother. We stopped by a river in a wooded area a few miles from the town we were staying in. We planned to spend the day there. There were a couple of other families by the river, and the water was calm and clear. I thought it would be a nice opportunity to take some pics in the woods. Took my camera and told my family in which direction I would go just in case. I started walking into the woods. It started as an easy trek but soon became harder. The woods were so thick at one point that it was actually quite dark. I knew there were not any dangerous animals in the area, and it is regarded as quite a safe and tourist-friendly region, with low crime, so I was not afraid of running into anything or anyone dangerous. I kept walking for like half an hour, taking pics at some places where the sun managed to break through the treetops. It was kind of beautiful, looked like a fangorn from the Lord of the Rings. Then I found this small clearing. I thought it would be a great spot for some rest. As soon as I placed a foot into this clearing, I felt something was off. I stopped completely and could feel the hairs at the back of my neck standing up. I started sweating. There was nothing there, but I was terrified. My whole body tensed up, and I felt as if my own brain was yelling at me to get the hell out of there, so I started walking backwards. And after a few meters, turned around to leave for good. I felt like there was something watching me from the clearing, and somehow I knew I should not turn around nor run. Like if whatever that was should not realize I knew it was there. I just walked calmly, taking pictures from time to time. And after a good 20 minutes, the feeling stopped, and I ran away from there as fast as I could, ended up on a dirt road and followed it. I eventually found the river and my family. Never told them.
So I've wanted to post this for a while but never got around to it. Not entirely sure if it's /x/grade, but it's the best I've got. So, be me, avid backpacker. Taking my dad out with me, he loves camping. He is still really new to backpacking though, plus like 70 and not really in shape. Anyway, .jpg starts off normal, but whole day driving. Trailhead of a maze of shittily marked dirt roads, getting darker in the forest. Still early-ish, but mountains block out light pretty early. We start on the trail just before dusk. Uneventful hike to the lake, about 6 miles. Dusk. Camp is hastily set up. Dinner made on gas stove thing. Then, the weirdest noise I've ever heard. Like if you took an owl hoot and a church bell and pitch shifted them both down to some kind of insectoid howl. Fucking deafening. Just to clarify, this is not some campsite with drunk teens fucking about. We are quite literally in the middle of nowhere. There is little to no chance anyone would be out here that far. Plus no cars seen since arrival to park. Both of us freaked out. Decide to just sleep and move on as soon as possible the next morning. Happens more throughout the night. Always been a restless sleeper. Get woken up by them every time. It seems like the sound comes from a different spot in the mountains every time. The trip went smoothly after that, aside from minor, non-spooky shit that's to be expected. Never heard anything like it since. It was up in the Sierra Nevada mountains at Pick-related.
About 6 months ago, I was in the Sierra Nevada Golden Trout Wilderness. I wandered off of the trail I was on and hiked up a small ridge. I was at around 10,000 feet, and ancient foxtail pines surrounded me. They were all gnarled and sort of eerie to begin with, and I realized I was surrounded by a small grove of about 6 of them, all arranged in a circle. I think the fact that these trees were all most likely around 800 to 1400 years old has something to do with what happened next. I took the gum out of my mouth and stuck it onto one of the trees. I was under the impression that one day someone would walk by, see it, and think, "Ha, that's funny. I guess someone else was here." Suddenly, I felt terror, pure terror. A massive booming sound started filling the air around me. I couldn't understand what the hell was going on, but I swear I could feel the vibration in my body from this sound. It was almost like the trees were angry at me. I was actually carrying a gun in the front pocket of my down vest, but I didn't feel safe. I fucking ran. I ran as fast as I could, and the quicker I ran, the quieter the sound got, but probably around halfway down the ridge I could still hear it. It was faint, but still there. This noise didn't fade in. It abruptly erupted out of nowhere. I've never felt fear like that before, but the next time I head out there, I'm going back. I don't think I'll find those same trees, but I'll definitely find tons more of them.
My uncle used to backpack alone for weeks in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California during the 80s and 90s. For years, he never really thought much of the Bigfoot stories, as he had zero encounters despite hundreds of nights spent alone in fairly remote wilderness. This was until one night he said his campsite was attacked by what he described as what could have only been Bigfoot. Stones were thrown in the vicinity of his fire and sleeping bag. No tent. He said he looked up, and at the edge of the light of his fire, about 30 feet, he saw a bipedal creature standing about 7 feet tall with incredibly broad shoulders. He told me he went to grab his ice axe, his only means of self-defense, and as he stood up he was so overcome with fear from this creature that his legs buckled underneath him and he collapsed to the ground. Now, my uncle is a fairly big dude, 4', 6'4", 250, and had spent many nights alone in the wilderness. So, he's encountered everything the California wilderness has to offer: bears, mountain lions, coyotes, etc. And for him to react like this has to mean something. This encounter still shakes him to this day, as he doesn't like to talk about it too much. However, shortly after the event, he was inspired to learn more about this creature and spent years searching. The funny thing is that my uncle was the person that introduced the shill that is Matt Moneymaker to the world of Bigfoot. Another interesting story about my uncle is that on one of his trips he spent searching, he stumbled upon a large scat that he couldn't identify. He took a sample of said scat back with him and had it analyzed at UCLA. The scat was determined to be from a creature that couldn't be recognized. The people at the lab even accused my uncle of taking the shit. Funny enough, the scat sample mysteriously disappeared when he returned to the lab a few months later. My dad and my other uncle also had what they described as an unexplained experience involving what they now think was Bigfoot. B-Dad and his brother, backpacking through Sierra Nevada mountains. Late summer at about 8 p.m. Sun just about to set. Trail comes along a large meadow. Meadow filled with dozens of cattle. While walking, I hear an extremely loud whistle or howl. Cattle quickly rush into a defensive circle, with young cows in the middle. At the time, thought the noise was a cowboy call, as there was a ranch a few miles down the trail. Cows continue staying in the formation, as long as my dad and uncle are in view. Make camp about a mile further. Next morning, continue hiking. Come across a ranch that they thought was open. Ranch boarded up, closed for the season.
Not as spooky now, but at the time it was nerve-wracking for me who had never experienced paranormal. Be me. Camping in Sierra Nevada, mountains with dad and brother. Second night at the campsite. Our tent was on the edge near the tree line. Wake up in the middle of the night. Do not remember the exact time. Probably between 2 and 4 a.m. Feel nature calling. Exit tent, half full moon. See hikers with headlamps on leaving to watch the sunrise later. Go a ways into trees. Find a small clearing. As I'm finishing up, I see something about 20 yards away. Cannot make it out exactly. I will try to describe it as best I can. About 8 feet tall, wide with no defined borders to where its body ends and begins. I do not know if that sounds right. Basically, the sides of it looked gradient to the background. My heart is racing, and it is the only sound. Have a bit of a stare down with whatever this is after I finish. After what feels like forever, I back slowly. The moment I take a step back, it vanishes. Shocked but relieved. backpedal all the way into the tent. Looking back, it was probably a hallucination of some kind, and I have yet to experience anything truly /X.
I almost got murdered by Ensign Chekhov this weekend because I said I wouldn't worry about them in reference to coyotes. Be back in California, visiting family and getting paperwork to sort out an argument with OSP and get a rifle out of purgatory. To go Innawoodsing in the glorious Sierra Nevada mountain range, wander off into a locals-only spot south of Shaver Lake. Bring my AR because there's been a bear being an asshole and scaring people off for their food. Raining all day. Make it up to a ring of old oaks to stop for the night and camp. A couple of foreigners are out here too. The guy sounds like Chekhov from TOS. Ask if I can join their fire, collect a bit more fuel, and fix it up with shit I learned in Boy Scouts. Was smoking and sputtering from the rain and probably was going to die soon if I hadn't intervened. Coyotes, being coyotes, decide to make noise off in the woods. Foreigners tense up. I, being an experienced local, tell them, calm down, it's just coyotes, I wouldn't worry about them. Was going to continue about how the bigger problem is bears. But slide racking distracts me. I look up to find a goddamn handgun pointed at my face. I flail and fell backwards off the log I was on. The next thing I really know, my ears are ringing and I'm about 40 feet away running through the woods yelling, "Fuck you, you fucking fucks, die in a fire," or something like that. Don't really remember what I was yelling, realize I forgot my pack, fuck it, don't care. Canvas ruck and only had spare pants, shirt, and my keys, well, fuck. Circle back along a fallen tree, Chekhov and Chekhov Light are yelling obscenities into the darkness standing by the fire. Chekhov starts down the trail. Chekhov Light goes and sits by the fire. Coyotes keep making noises off a ways away. Chekhov Light is now brandishing a knife and jumping at every noise. The fire pops and he bolts down the trail after Chekhov. Can hear Chekhov Light moving loudly down the trail, calling for his friend. Definitely out of sight, though. Rifle out and magazine in. Don't really remember when I had shouldered it. But this is the point where I distinctly remember having it shouldered and ready to fire. I pick my way into the camp and grab my pack, and nope my way out of there. Hide against a tree as Chekhov and Chekhov Light make their way back to the camp. Nope all the way back to the trailhead in my truck and leave. Check my magazines. Apparently fired off 4 rounds during the bit I do not remember. So which of you did I get into a gunfight with in California last night?
Be security guard. Get an alarm for a haunted house. Guards have been locked in the house, and it is almost Innawoods. Said to be haunted by an old man. Not supposed to go alone. But backup is locking up banks and will take too long. You have to cross some train tracks near a gate, then walk through the woods to get there. It is a motion alarm from the basement like always. Pull up on sight. Start walking through the tall grass. 6 feet. The house has no front porch, so you have to go in through the back. As I approach the house, there is a thumping sound, and something running off into the woods. The house's back entrance is covered in really old spider webs, old fuel bills laying around. I enter the house and disarm the alarm. It looks like people live here but do not. The beds are made. There is furniture. It is like visiting your grandma's house who has been dead for a month. It is clean, but old. There are older style things like radios, TVs, and books. Kind of cluttered. I introduced myself just in case to be polite. I cannot find the basement door. So I wander around the house. 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, a bathroom, and 2 living rooms. Big old green chair I expected somebody to appear in, but nothing. The other room had a bunch of stuffed animals on the couch facing the TV. Finally go into the basement. It is one of those places where you feel exposed walking down, like something will grab your ankles. The atmosphere of the basement is different, abandoned and dilapidated. There is a storage room that has 2 dolls. I almost expected them to move. One of them looked familiar, if you will. I tried closing the door to the doll room, but the door became stuck, so I left it. Right behind me were weird stains on the concrete. Maybe jam or blood. Whatever. I am out of here. Try to arm the system, but the panel says fault kitchen door. I must have closed it incorrectly. Everything is as I left it, so bypass it and arm it. As I leave the back screen door, I entered from rattles loudly as I walk away for no reason.
Be me. Working in the estate of some family in a mountain called Sierra Nevada, of a city called Santa Marta in Colombia, South America, cleaning some terrain that was going to be used for planting coffee. It was me and another 4 guys. I was in the upper zones of the estate with 1 guy, and the other 3 were in the lower zones because there was more terrain to cover down there. It was mostly fallen leaves, weeds, and vines that may block the sunlight or may inconvenience the plants while growing. I had been working there for about 3 weeks already in the place, and nothing weird had happened. It was hot. The oxygen was thin due to the height, but you got used to it after a few days of work. Then it happened. While resting under the shadow of some tree in one of the zones we had cleaned already. It was a plain zone that we used as a resting spot to protect ourselves from the sun during the middle of the day, 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. I saw what I thought at first was one of my co-workers walking, like if he was going down the hill. It must be noted that this resting spot was about the middle of the estate, so to go up to the main house or down toward the river, you had to pass through here. If not, then you had to take a detour of about 2 hours and ask for a neighbor to allow you to pass through their estate. I thought he was going down the hill to call the others to end for today, for it was getting dark. It gets dark around 4 to 5 p.m. and dead dark about 6 to 7 p.m. Nothing weird with that. It was maybe 3 or maybe 3:30 because of the sunlight and the cold breeze. Anyway, I saw him going down and decided to wait for them to come over. 1 hour later, no signs of them. I got worried, thinking they may have gotten lost. Weird, because we had been working 3 weeks already, and that should not happen. But even so, it should not take more than 40 minutes to go to the river and then back up. It is down the hill. Wait for another 30 minutes, but still no signs of them. I decided to go to the main house, ask for some help, and go search for them before it gets really dark. When I was about to reach the house, I see the guys coming down. They ask what happened, why I took so long to go up. They thought I got lost or something. I tell them what happened. They had been in the house for about 2 hours already, and none of my co-workers went down around the time I said. We thought maybe someone got in the estate. Maybe a tourist that got lost doing hiking. So we went down to check. But after going down calling for anyone with no response, we decided that whoever it was not there anymore. Get to the main house and the owner asks us what happened, joking about me getting lost and such. Tell the owner everything that happened. The owner's mood completely shifted. He told us to save the tools and get ready to eat. We did not speak about the incident again, but between ourselves. I worked for another week or so. They were going to plant the coffee, but I could only work that much because of college. Later, I found one of my co-workers of that time while in the marketplace in the city, While talking, he said, "Oh yeah, Anon, you remember that time that we thought you got lost?" He tells me the place that we used as a resting spot was where a second house was built, but got burned, and one person died in it. He said that the owner told them about it after finishing planting the coffee. I still want to believe that it was just a lost tourist. But goddamn, this happened back in 2007.
My girlfriend and I live about 1.5 to 2 miles away from each other. We live in Vegas, and if you have ever been, you will notice that a lot of the residential neighborhoods away from the Strip, casinos, border the desert. Imagine whole neighborhoods that just end into the nothingness that are the Sierra Nevadas. Picture related. If you live far away enough from the lights like we do on the southwest side of town, you get a pretty clear look at the stars. Kind of awesome. Unlike major cities like Los Angeles that have virtually no stars in the night sky due to light pollution. Sorry, this is taking forever, but the setting is important. I will start. Dropping my girlfriend home one night around 1 or 2 a.m. Hot summer night. Begin my 2 to 5 minute drive home. Important to note that on this specific night the desert was well lit by the stars and moon. Driving down the road and see a handful of taillights up ahead of me, maybe a quarter of a mile. As I get closer, I realize the cars are parked on the deserty side of the road, which was weird considering how late or early in the night it was. I decide to pull over. I was a lifeguard at one of the casinos at the time, and in case someone was hurt, I knew CPR and basic first aid. I pull up, park my car, and I see maybe 10 people standing around talking together. One guy had a golden lab. I recognized a few of them from our local gym. Our neighborhood is small with its own shopping district, so it is hard not to run into someone you know in the area. Most are older, respectable people, middle-class people with families. I walk up and ask what is going on, and one of the guys who I know most from the gym tells me they saw something strange out in the desert. That is when I realize that most of them are staring out into the desert, trying to get a good look, but no one has actually walked out there to see what it is. After what was about 15 minutes, some other guy who was elderly starts shouting, "What is that?" And everyone starts kind of freaking out. Golden Lab starts freaking out as well, barking and trying to run off into the desert but is on a leash. Look out, and what I see paralyzes me. It was a tall humanoid figure, white or gray, taking off in the desert out to nothingness. In fact, the direction he was running would lead you into the nothingness of the Sierras, and eventually California, but no civilization for hundreds of miles. You could hear and feel its footsteps as it strode long and heavy. The desert is covered in cacti and dead brush and uneven. Dirt, mud, and sand make it hard to just book it. Aside from the steps and the people shouting, you could also hear brush being trampled and ripped out of the ground. What terrified me most is the fact that although whatever it was maybe a football field away, at that distance it still appeared to be over 7 feet tall. I could not imagine the size of this thing standing next to a human. I would not want to. After a few more minutes, people start hopping in their cars. Dog is still going crazy. My mouth is dry and I feel like all emotion has left my body out of the sheer fear I experienced. The last remaining couple of minutes of my drive home seemed eternal. I snapped out of it for a second when my phone rang. It was a text from my girlfriend asking if I made it home okay. A custom we have. Super cute. I know. I did not tell her about what happened. I lied and said I was already in bed. It was then that I realized the center console in my car was not lit. Radio, clock, dials, etc. all shut off. Headlights too. Tried turning on the radio and I got nothing. Right before that, I was running my phone through the speakers via aux, and it worked just fine. Next morning, I popped the hood and find that all fuses were shorted. I never turned my car off when I parked. Was able to jump start my car by popping the clutch with a push since I drive a stick, but I have never seen that happen before. Relatively new car as well. I couldn't sleep, that was a couple of years ago. Sometimes when I make that same drive home from my girlfriend's house late at night, I'm terrified of looking west into that same empty space.
Here's a short Greentext. In Sierra Nevada, at about 11,000 feet or so. Decide to hike off trail just because I am familiar with the area and want to see the view from atop a nearby ridge. Hike in about an hour or so. Up high, the trees are all ancient gnarled foxtail pines. Some are thousands of years old. Chewing gum. At moments get these weird, foreboding thoughts. No one knows where you are right now. You could just fall into the earth. There may be things out here that we do not know about that can just grab your ass. Sit down in a little clearing and eat an MRE. Be little asshole and decide to stick the gum in a crack of one of these trees. Slight buzzing starts. Grows louder. Louder still. Begins shitting a fucking brick. The buzzing is increasing in intensity so much that it feels like my body is shaking. Grows stronger still. Look around me, realize I am inside of a ring of 5 or 6 ancient gnarled trees. Or maybe one huge clonal tree. The buzzing is so intense now it fills me with dread. Eyes well up with tears. Sprint all the way down that ridge until I'm back on the trail. Never been so scared in my life. It's truly a weird feeling when you have a gun on you but feel like it doesn't even matter, like it's useless. Part of me now feels like ancient trees are some sort of entity or something, like they are all linked through their roots and have developed a type of consciousness or some shit. The whole time I was running down the ridge, my mind was screaming, "You pissed off the fucking trees." Sorry, trees.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.